Yo, 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 we got to do a another Cowboys special after that comeback win against the Eagles. Chase, you texted me that it was a good day to be me in the NFL world. It sure was. Jaguars win, Cowboys win, SMU won. So, what
Doesn't
did
get
you
much better
think?
than
Well,
that.
doesn't get much better than that. How did you like that Eagles game?
Dude, it was awesome. You watch and it, it just was sloppy to start. Normally, what happens to us is when we go down early, we kind of become one dimensional. We force Dak into hero ball, and then inevitably we climb a small comeback, and then we throw a late pick or like a pick in the fourth, and then it's just game over. I thought our defense was sensational after they like cleaned it up. And I mean, obviously they didn't score for the last 30, 40 minutes. Um, no, I mean, I was really proud. I think it showed a lot of fight. It showed, um, you know, I think some of the acquisitions and returning players have helped a
Yes.
ton to our defense. And honestly, from an offensive standpoint, I think we're exceptional and can only be better if CD starts to play like he normally does.
Yeah. Yes.
We're doing this with CD dropping,
It's
3 or 4
amazing.
passes
Yeah.
in some games. Like we're gonna be killing people if we get him right.
Yeah. He's just got a case of the yips. It happens. Brian
Yep.
Thomas Jr. is doing it right now. But
Yes.
I mean, were the Cowboys partly bailed out a little bit by the Eagles seeming to just crumble once they got up 21? Yeah, but uh, Saquon looks like a guy who just ran for 2,000 yards and had to do it all the way through the Super Bowl. Like, he doesn't look the same. That
Yeah.
offensive line got beat up a little bit. So they benefited definitely from that. But still, it's A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goddard, Jordan Mailata. Like, I thought it was so impressive. And like you said, just a few guys come back on the defense. You bring
Mhm.
Quinnen Williams in. Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark, where does that stand on defensive tackle combos? And then, I mean, number one. And then Overshown comes back. Logan Wilson, people were laughing because they're like, you traded for a backup on the other worst defense in the NFL. I get that, but he's still a pro. He was one of their team captains. Like, that just elevates the room.
Yep.
Revel comes back on the DB end. They let go of Kyer Elam, which I thought respects. Like, you made a bad move, just let it go. Don't force
Own
the
it.
issue.
Yep.
Own it. It looks like a completely different defense, and you want to stop and go, oh, but they only played so and so. I go, but no, they played the Eagles and the I'm blanking on it, but like it was two good games. I'm like, and that's with CD dropping a bunch of footballs.
Yep. Yeah, I think personally I'm a big fan of, and we talked about it at the beginning, or early at the I guess at the start of the season.
Yes,
I
dude.
think I like what Shoddy is doing and his personality. I think like I said, if he's the right guy, it's exactly what we need. He's a like player first guy, but he doesn't tolerate BS. And
No,
like, we probably saw the CD and George Pickens out in Vegas a couple weeks back.
that was in Vegas. Yeah,
Kind of hilarious, but Shotty's like, hey, you guys are held to the same standard, and you guys are to sit the first series. And I really respect that. Um, I think we've built a really good culture. And to talk about or I guess on the game last week, when we were facing the Eagles, we had a punt block that actually was called for roughing the kicker
yeah,
really early. That
yeah,
wasn't true. And then there was another couple of penalties that really were unfavorable to us. The interception Dak threw,
yeah.
that was holding. I'm not going to be like, oh, it's the most egregious hold of all time, but that player's not getting the interception without holding CD back and then picking that
Right.
ball. So, there's a couple of those. Then on the other end, yes, Eagles had a meltdown. They had a couple penalties go against them too. That's
That
football. But
happens.
considering how well Hurts played for them in terms of taking
Yeah.
care of the ball, um, to be able to come back and beat them, I think it gives a lot of momentum, and it makes me pretty excited for Thursday. I mean, it is
Oh,
Mahomes, so I'm a little
dude.
scared, but I'm really excited too, especially since we have him at Jerry World.
I joked as soon as the schedules all got released, I was like, okay, so I've got Chiefs Monday night in Jacksonville. We crossed one off the list, and I was
Yes.
there. I was there. I was a few
Yes.
rows from the
Beautiful
field,
game.
and unbelievable. And then I thought, okay, and then I've got them on Thanksgiving for the Cowboys, so the Chiefs could either ruin two of my days, or I mean, Monday night was the best night of my life. I really think it is, and
Yeah.
the best game I've ever attended as far as like what was at stake, the opponent, the everything, like Trevor tripping and scoring, the whole
Yes.
thing. I mean,
Legendary.
movie. And tomorrow is so big for the Cowboys. It's a really big day for me because with the Panthers losing. Now, it's a little bleak for the Cowboys because there's just a few teams that it's really hard to imagine catching on them. The Buccaneers are going to run away with that sorry division. They're going to run away with that one. Seattle, Green Bay, and San Francisco are the wild card teams right now, with Detroit and Carolina ahead of the Cowboys.
Okay.
Carolina would have the tiebreaker over the Cowboys, which is, I mean, inexcusable. But below them is Atlanta, Minnesota, Arizona. So the Cowboys kind of need to bank on a few collapses ahead of them, but who knows? Anything could happen. And it's kind of no matter what, you kind of have to win out. You have to win out.
Yeah.
So we've got Chiefs at home, which we'll do, then at the Lions, home for the Vikings, home for the Chargers, at Washington, at New York. You could envision them winning every single one of those games. It probably won't happen, but it's a not that hard a schedule to go out. JJ McCarthy, the Chargers have you and me playing tackle for them. Washington's all over the place, and the Giants are all over the place. So it's really just this Chiefs and Lions game. And the Quinn Williams trade. What did you think when that all happened?
Yeah, I can't remember when we first talked if I had mentioned to you that when we were looking to trade, I think it was right after the Micah trade, so maybe it didn't happen. Um, but I really thought we were looking for a defensive tackle to strengthen the team, and we went for Kenny Clark. Kenny's been great. It's just
Real good.
he's a little older, but the 2 first-round picks is great. Okay, how are we going to use them? I personally thought we were going to go originally for Quinnen Williams, and then that would be the haul. Jets knowingly were like, we're not going to be very good, so we're not giving you 2 early firsts, and respect to them for that. Uh, you know, I really liked his personality in some of the interviews I saw, when he was a
Yes.
rookie and early on in his career. But,
Blessing
when
himself.
it's
Yeah.
hard to shine on a bad team, and he did. I mean, he was a top 3 pick from Bama, and he comes into the Cowboys. He has his old coach, his old defensive line coach that
Yeah.
coached him to be the best when he was in New York. And I mean, immediate first overall or first ranked defensive tackle over the last 2 weeks. Like you said, I think we have the best defensive tackle rotation in the league, and that is crazy to say as a Cowboys
Insane.
fan
Yeah.
because we have been so bad and struggling to find someone really in the last 10 years. I mean, Osa's been pretty solid
Right.
objectively, but like outside of Osa, I haven't really had, that
Solomon
guy that I'm
Thomas
like,
will
oh
flash
gosh,
every now and then. Yeah.
yeah, like, we don't have that guy, and now it's like, you go and get Kenny, you go and get Quentin Williams, and now it's like, "Hey, guess what? It makes Ezraku's job easier, makes Fowler's job easier, it makes Sam Williams' job, it makes every other defensive end's job way easier because they now have to pay attention to the interior, and then it takes the pressure off of our corners and our safeties because if we're getting home quickly and collapsing, especially in the middle of the pocket, it puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback and it gives our secondary time to key in on routes and really, defend well. Got Overshown to the mix and
Oh,
like you said, it's a completely different defense. So yeah,
completely
to
different.
answer the Quinn question, I really like it. Some people thought it was a little hefty of a price tag. I don't know. Like when you add such a difference maker, and yes, Micah was the same type of difference maker,
Right.
but you don't have him anymore. So, okay, you give your next year's first. I think next year we'll be a much more competitive team. I think we have,
Yeah. Yeah.
the framework that's getting built. Our younger O line has another year. Um, but I think giving away next year's first is right now we still have 2 this year, whether you feel like we need another tackle, if you want a luxury pick and you're like, "Hey, I want, Jeremiah Love falls," and you're like, "I wanna duo up him
Jeez.
and
Yeah.
Javonte," like, whatever you can do that. Personally, for me, I would prefer if we go, double defense, we get 2, very young stars, and then we have a very young team on both sides of the ball. I think that would maximize Dak's window. I've heard recently that people might or Cowboys may try and take a quarterback of the future in one of these classes. You know, I think Dak's 32
It's
in
just
how he's
it's not Jerry's style to do that though.
yeah, it's not and I personally from what I've seen from Dak this year in 2023, 2024, it was not looking great. Team was kind of in shambles, and then he was hurt, and season over. The way he plays, it is truly pretty impressive to me to watch how masterful he is pre-snap, being able to read the defense, and I think him and Shoddy have a really good chemistry of like, you I see it for me, I love it. The rollout back to the right in the pocket, we
Yeah.
do that, and I'm like, oh, he's taking a shot, and
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
know it every time. And CD or Pickens is down there somewhere, and he's just throwing like a 40-yard
Yeah.
dot. So that's been super fun. But yeah, I love the trade. I think it will help us hopefully make a push this year.
Right.
If we don't, hey, you get 2 first round picks, and you can bolster the defense, and then we'll be a much better team next year.
For sure. I liked it in the sense that when people, you get people in the media who just take the player side no matter what, and or can't believe the Cowboys would do this. Well, what's the point of trading for Quinnen Williams when you could have just had Micah Parsons and all that? Well, when you traded Micah Parsons, not only did you get an extra first round pick, which Micah's probably better than any of these first round picks will
Of
be.
course.
That's true. But
Yes.
he got to pay Tyler Smith with no drama. He got to keep this fullback that Shoddy must love. He gets to keep whoever, right? It frees him up to say, okay, great, Tyler Smith, you're here for the long term. Jake Ferguson, you're here for the long term. Like, it frees him up to do that stuff. And I still think it was a win-win for both teams. I think it's exactly what the Packers needed because the Packers missed on that Van Ness guy. Cowboys missed on Mozzie Smith. Hey, let's do a little swapperoo here and let's kind of make up for all of our bad
Yeah.
first round picks. And I think it was a move for the future. I think I don't think he thinks about after Dak. I don't think he's thinking about post-Dak Cowboys. I think he's I'll figure it out when I get there, just like he did with Romo, just like he did with Bledsoe and all that. Like, I can't envision him doing it. I'm thinking the most ideal scenario in the world is that next year, Jeremiah Love somehow falls to the Cowboys because quarterback needy teams start reaching on guys, and then you pick up whatever the best edge rusher is or whoever the
Yeah.
best DB is, whatever. The Cowboys are in a fun spot. I really enjoy it. And another thing with trading Micah is the George Pickens stuff. I can't believe the what they got away with sending what did we send for George Pickens? A
Third.
3?
A third.
I mean, it's insane. It's
Yeah.
like, what happened? And spoiler alert, Dak Prescott throwing you the ball is better than Kenny
Makes you a
Pickett and
really good
Mason
player.
Rudolph throwing the ball, right? I mean, so that's obvious, but I saw somebody joke, Jerry got a 2-1. He got a star wide receiver, and he has a new star player to have a very public contract negotiation with this offseason. But maybe with the Micah trade, that frees up cash to go ahead and get George Pickens down. And I love George Pickens. He doesn't strike me as a we'll take a team friendly deal kind of guy. But it's going to be awesome. But the George Pickens stuff is amazing. Chiefs on Thanksgiving. I'm very familiar with the Chiefs. I hate watch them every week. I have Chiefs fatigue. I'll admit it. I can't stand them. I was rooting for the Colts on Sunday. That's how much Chiefs fatigue I have. I would rather
Wow,
see the Colts
that is
run
for
away with the
Jackson.
division
That's a lot of Chiefs fatigue.
and they do almost nothing well except Mahomes' fourth quarter clutch time.
Yep.
I mean, I'm very nervous about the matchup, but how do you think it goes? I mean, like,
Yeah.
what are matchups? Like, what's the key to it? I don't know what it is, honestly.
Yeah, I saw that one of their starting linemen is probably out for this game, so that
Was
will
it
help.
Trey Smith, the guard?
I think it was Trey Smith. I think it was Trey Smith.
Great time to have Quinnen Williams on the football
Yes.
team.
And so I think, the easy cop out is like, yeah, win the line of scrimmage, which with our current team, we can
Yeah.
do that. They don't have like Pacheco and Hunt are serviceable power backs. They're not going to be gashing our defense. And we've been the number one rush defense the last 2 weeks. Like, I think you allow yourself to say, hey, Mahomes, try and beat us. And he very well easily can.
Yeah.
But if you force them to be more one-dimensional, you can kind of, keep them to be just passing on us. I really think for the Cowboys, though, we won't be able to come back like we did against the Eagles.
No.
I think that Patrick is going to be too clutch in the fourth to allow us to, come back if we're down. He gets the ball. Like, they're going to find a way. I think we need to score early and often. I've actually always been a fan when we have good Dak-led offenses of taking the ball first in the first half. I know people sometimes think it's silly. Everyone's like, "Oh, we should all, always give it yourself the chance in the second half." Um, with how good our offense can be, if you go down and you score right on the other team, I love we did it with the Zeke offenses too, is
Yeah,
amazing. Like Dak and Zeke just run us down the field.
yeah,
And so I think we gotta score early and kind of take out like really just take out their rush game early and force them into pass only mode. And then with Overshown back, I'm a little more confident on spying Patrick Mahomes. Like
yeah.
I think um will be able to kind of stop some of the creativity. You're not going to shut him down. He's probably going to throw. I say for 300 yards on us. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Um, but I think with how our offense has looked, if and how Dak has done avoiding pressure, which Spagnuolo's great at, but
Yeah.
Dak has been this year, I think we can win. I think it'll be close. I've talked about. I won't talk too much about UT, but I think both of those games this week um,
Oh yeah.
are going to be excellent games, and I wouldn't be surprised if you get like a 31-28
Oh yeah.
Cowboys versus Chiefs score. I can see that. I don't think it'll be low scoring. I think it'll be kind of one of those like really special Thanksgiving matchup, so I'm hoping that's the case.
My worry for the Cowboys is, and I experienced it on Monday night, even for the Jags to beat them on Monday night, we had to be gifted a freak 99-yard pick six. You look at a lot of their losses, it's a lot of kind of like freak things happen. Like if it's just sound football for 60 minutes, it's really hard to beat Mahomes and Andy Reid and Spags.
Yeah,
And these guys show up when backs are against the wall. Thanksgiving, I mean, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, Mahomes are talking about if there was a time for us to show up, it's going to be on Thursday. But the same things happen in the Cowboy locker room. They
yep,
have to. Both seasons are on the line. It,
exactly.
it's a great matchup. I remember when the Jags were playing the Raiders, I saw an interview with Pete Carroll, and they were asking him about the keys to victory. And Pete Carroll, I love Pete Carroll. He was like, "It's not that complicated. Every single game is the same. If you can limit their running game, put them in must-pass situations, and free your pass rushers to go tee off." Eh,
Yep,
we've already seen how to beat the Chiefs. You get home with 4, and just score some points and keep up with them. That's it. That's all it is. And the Chiefs, you can start to see this with all the success they've had. You see it with them, the Bills, the Eagles somehow not happening, but they don't draft very well because they're picking at the end of every round. So they don't have uh, you know, I don't know, name them. They don't have CeeDee Lamb falling to them.
yeah,
It's making it work with an Xavier Worthy. Rasheed Rice was in the second round. Like you can start to see the roster is not filled out with blue chip guys. And the Cowboys are starting to get weirdly filled out with blue chip guys. So I think this has got to be win your matchups. Quinnen Williams, I don't know who that backup guard is, whatever that poor soul is on the Chiefs. I need him to have the worst day of his life. And Mahomes, you have to get in his face, put a spy on Mahomes. It's not that complicated. But
yeah,
if it's 17-14 going into the fourth quarter, Cowboys up 3, Mahomes getting the football, I'm gonna be crapping my pants. I mean, it's gonna be
yeah.
a such a nerve-wracking game.
Oh yeah, we'll be on the edge of our seats. I think with how we've looked, particularly to end halves, I think getting momentum at key points in the game will be really helpful. And then it's when it gets down to the end of it, can we sustain a drive that basically takes Mahomes off the field? That's what you see in those matchups, especially like the AFC heavyweights when you have, Josh Allen, especially primarily in the regular season as of now. But when
Yeah.
they've been able to beat Mahomes, it's because Josh Allen, James Cook, Shakir, they can keep him off the field
Yep.
in crunch time. The Eagles have done it when they've beaten the Chiefs too. If you can take Mahomes out of the game by keeping him off the field or having your like taking a lead early and kind of being able, like you said, keying on the pass rush, it helps to do it. He's still the best player in the league. I understand, people might have different opinions. To me, there's no one better, but at that
No.
same point, how like if you're not energized to play your best ball against, the Chiefs at this point, then I don't know what to tell you. But I'm really excited. I think I've been really happy, and I know you talked about Pickens earlier. I'm really excited for that matchup. I think
Oh yeah.
we'll see how they play it. They're gonna put McDuffie on one of CD or Pickens. I imagine what they'll do is they'll put McDuffie on Pickens, and then they'll try and
Yeah.
bracket CD. All that's gonna do, opens up the field for Ferg, it opens up the running lanes for Javonte. But regardless, CD's gonna have to find a way to get free. If they're gonna try and neutralize Pickens out of the game plan, all right, well, we have, CD, who I still believe is a top 5 receiver in football, and on his day can really make an impact. He still did. He still had the 50-yard catch. It just was
Exactly.
kind of,
Yeah.
shadowed by a couple of poor end zone plays and a couple of drops over the middle. Like, he's had 2 games this year with the against the Eagles with drops. He'd have had a 200-yard game both games if he
Yeah.
didn't drop the ball.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. And so I think it's gonna be, if I had to give a key player, I think it's gonna be CD, given that they'll probably try and take Pickens out. And then from there, it's like, hey, pick or CD on offense. Um, I'll probably actually, I think Quinn's gonna get home, do his thing. Um, I think Overshown's gonna have to be really big for us.
Yes.
I think, um, we have to make sure that Mahomes can't beat us in a scramble drill, and I think he's our best person to stop that. So I think those are gonna be my 2, main guys for this week. I don't know if you have any different
I
ones.
I think you got to ride Javonte Williams. This is
Yeah.
where I start to dive into the Cowboys. I think they probably are banking on next season with all these moves they made. I think they know they need more than Javonte Williams, but then again, he'll go for 120 and nobody's surprised. Like it'll just happen. I think
Yeah.
Javonte got to ride Javonte Williams. I think the O line D line matchup, the Cowboys O line Chiefs D line, is pretty favorable for the Cowboys. Chris Jones is not the Chris Jones of the past, but like Kelsey, one play he can just come in and wreck the game for you. I mean, the going against a team like the Chiefs, you got to think even all their young guys, their standard is Super Bowl. They have second year guys who
Yep.
are 2-time Super Bowl champions. I mean,
Yep.
like even these random corners that you're gonna tell these 2 young guys, hey, you guys are got CD this week. That's fine. That
Okay.
they're about it. They're about it. They're gonna be like, great, we just did Ayuk and Kittle and won a Super Bowl doing it. Like
Yeah.
you cannot make the mistakes. Like Turpin is a fabulous player, and he recovered from that fumble with a big
Yes.
return. But you cannot do that stuff against the Chiefs. They will not make. You cannot bank on them making mistakes to capitalize on. Unfortunately, it feels like it's going to have to be 60 minutes of sound football, and I think the Cowboys can do it though. The only worries I have are if CD and Pickens have an off day. I mean, I don't know what an off day would do. If Spags is doing stuff to just kind of keep them out of the game, everybody kind of has to play their best game against the Chiefs. The Chiefs, unfortunately, still have that aura about them that I need everybody on their A game today. And I hate that it's a short week, but it's a short week for them too. They played overtime. The Cowboys got away with that last second field goal. So Chiefs are probably a little beat up. That Colts team is nasty. I mean, I know Daniel Jones, he looked like Daniel Jones on Sunday, not this new Indiana Jones, but
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Colts team is nasty. So the Chiefs probably feel a little beat up. The Cowboys just went 10 rounds with the Eagles. So, man, maybe it won't be that good of a football game. It might be a pretty messy football game. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, it is a short week, and so sometimes that can take away from it. But I think at this point, with 6 games left, like this, if there's a game to give it your very best, I mean, tomorrow versus the Chiefs, I think the Lions also. Um, I think we'll play the Lions a lot better this year. We got
Yeah.
killed and embarrassed last year. I don't think that's gonna be the case this year. I think we'll be able to play them much closer. Um, but a win against the Chiefs, and you're looking 6-5. From there, it's, hey, can we beat one of the Chargers or Lions, and then can we take care of business against the teams in the NFC that are not very good?
Yeah.
And I think honestly for us, the path to the playoffs is 10-6-1. Personally, I
Yeah.
think we have to win 5-6. The Arizona and Carolina games will haunt us,
Oh,
and so we have to redeem them by beating excellent teams right now. Um, if we can get to that 10-6-1, I would encourage people. We didn't do it on the offensive side of the ball because we didn't need help on offense, but I would encourage people to look back to when we made the Amari Cooper trade,
yeah.
7 years ago. We were 3-5 that same year, just as we were this year, except we had an additional tie. But one trade, and we went 7-1 down the stretch and made it into the playoffs. I believe we actually beat either Stafford or Russell Wilson that year
Mhm.
in the playoffs. Can't remember which one, but we beat one of them. And then we got ran over by the CJ Anderson Rams, which was
Yeah.
tragic. But you know, that being said, one trade and you add in a few injuries, like completely different team, and like I'm not. Maybe it's a little delusional. Some people will, mess with me for being a little, never stop believing. But
Yeah.
hey, we're not dead yet. We
No, we're not, dude.
somehow did it from down 21, and I loved looking at Twitter posts of people just, uh,
Melting.
yeah, well, and they're talking a lot of crap about the Cowboys. They're like, "This is why you'll never ever win with Dak, and this is why the Cowboys will always be, whatever."
Yeah.
Can't stop believing.
So good game on Thursday. I want to end with just one of my favorite things. I love just looking at the sports media landscape as a whole. And my favorite thing in the world is when former players, it feels like these networks will just hire any former player that can fog a mirror. I mean, they
Yep.
have nothing. And is when the former players get in and they all so clearly hate the Cowboys, and it's because they always talk about the Cowboys and never talks about us. It's my favorite thing in the world is that win or lose, the Cowboys and the Chiefs are going to frontline every news article this weekend. Um, what do you ever just like watch sports media and you go like, man, the hatred you guys have for the Cowboys is so. I mean, we can feel it from miles and miles away. I
Yep.
think it's the funniest thing to watch.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when I first graduated from college, and for context for everyone, if you don't know, I went to UT. And so UT also experiences a similar
Hmm.
media attention,
Yeah.
and I've kind of just grown accustomed to a lot of anti, to my teams in the media. But,
Yeah.
at the same point, with as much anti, Texas, anti Cowboys, there's also a wide support base. And, I tried myself to not be, one of the toxic ones, and really just be, genuine and appreciative of good sports teams. But also at the same point, like, I am very aware of teams that will call out, our team, call it the Cowboys, call it the Longhorns for being, something. I'm like, that's a little hypocritical, don't you think? But
Mhm.
it's, to me, it's funny. I also think some of them don't really understand what's going on in the locker room, and I also, a lot of people box score watch nowadays, and it's kind of sad. Am I like, do I never box score, look at the box score and make a
Oh yeah.
judgment?
Trevor
Of
Lawrence is
course.
the ultimate box score victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, hey, a quarterback throws 2 picks. If I before I go, "Oh, yeah, he's terrible," let's watch the interceptions. Half the time, it's a receiver bouncing the ball off their hands, or like, something
Tipped.
that's
Yep.
not really their fault. Sometimes it's like, "Alright, yeah, that was not very clean from them." But there's a lot more context that goes into it, and, people will watch and just assume like, "Oh, Dak threw an interception. He's terrible, the worst player ever." And I'm like, well, he is trying to come back from down like 24 points against the Broncos on the road in Mile High against the top two, top three defense in the league. He threw a pick trying to make a play in the end zone. Yeah, like, okay, did you watch any of the other games where the 4 previous games he threw for 15 touchdowns and no interceptions? So I don't know. I think there's just a natural bias, and like you said, if they're always talking about your team or our team, and uh, you know, there's probably a little bit of animosity there. But
Yeah. Yeah. The most recent one was Draymond Green because the former athletes
oh
always
yes,
also they're like, man, I'm gonna do actual analysis. I'm really gonna break it down for people. I'm gonna actually talk about the game. And Draymond Green gets on his podcast and his analysis is Dak Prescott's a bum. And that's the analysis. And
wow,
I just love watching
riveting.
them fall right back into the thing you swore to destroy. And
Yep,
Dak Prescott is they talk about them and not themselves. So it's going to be awesome. And it's again, no matter what, win or lose, either the 6-5-1 or the 5-6-1 Cowboys are going to be leading every show. I think it's the funniest thing. So all right, bro, let's get you out of here. Appreciate
sounds
it.
good, man.
Go Cowboys. We got a shot.
I know,
We
man.
got a
I'm
shot.
excited. It's gonna be a good week. It's gonna be a good week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Happy Thanksgiving, dude.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, man. Peace.